It started with a sound I never expected to hear on a Saturday morning, a champagne cork popping, followed by shrill laughter echoing through my backyard like it was the opening scene of a reality show I never signed up for. I stepped outside holding my sandwich and Bluetooth speaker, ready for a peaceful soak in the hot tub I had just finished upgrading with an eco-filtration system. Instead, I found 6 women in glitter robes drinking bubbly in my tub like it was a 5-star bridal resort. One of them even raised her glass and shouted, "Cheers," like I was the help. Right in the middle of it all was Beverly, HOA vice president, serial clipboard wielder, wearing a tiara that looked like it came from the clearance bin at a party supply store and a smug grin that said, "I dare you to stop me." Music was blasting from a portable speaker. Streamers and pastel colors were taped to my fence. There was even a cooler wedged up against my grill, like my backyard had suddenly been annexed for a bachelorette nation-state. I kept my voice steady. "Beverly, you can't be here. This is private property." She smiled without a hint of apology. "Relax, Mitchell. We're all neighbors. Cheryl from the board said it would probably be fine. Besides, you weren't using it anyway." That was the moment. The moment when every absurd HOA violation she ever cited me for, mailbox paint chipping, a wind chime being too melodic, once even a misplaced recycling bin suddenly flashed before my eyes. And in that quiet, controlled breath I took, I made a decision. I looked at her, smiled just as smug, and said, "You're right. I won't be using it. The Lobsters will." Now I should explain. My name is Mitchell, and I used to work in environmental regulation and aquatic systems. Years ago, I helped design portable crustacean tanks for a marine study. I still had the specs, and more importantly, I still had connections. That night, I called my old colleague, Tasha, who runs a seafood logistics company, and asked one simple question: "How fast can you get me 20 live lobsters?" She answered, "Do you want media-trained lobsters, or the meanest, most territorial crustaceans I got?" "Bring me the fighters," I said. By the next morning, while Beverly and her wedding circus were off getting their nails done or spraying glitter on something, I turned my hot tub into a covert marine exhibit. I lowered the temp, installed oxygen stones, slipped a mesh partition under the seats, and added just enough mineral clouding to keep things looking normal. Then Tasha's team arrived with the Goods 25 lobsters, all angry, all ready. I even floated a plastic drink tray on top with fake champagne flutes, so nothing looked out of place. At 11 a.m. sharp, Beverly came sashaying down my driveway in full boho bride mode. Matching robes, flower crowns, the works. Her bridesmaids squealed as they ran toward the tub. One of them shouted, "I call corner seat." I stayed inside, watching through the kitchen window, sipping my coffee and waiting. Beverly dipped one foot in, then the other, posing like she was Cleopatra at sea. Then she sank in fully, surrounded by her glitter crew, all smiles and giggles for about 12 seconds. That's when the first scream erupted. A bridesmaid shot up from the water like a breaching dolphin, yelling, "Something grabbed me." Another jumped out clutching her ankle. Beverly shrieked as a lobster surfaced, claw raised like it was giving a royal wave. The chaos that followed was the kind of thing you can't script. Bridesmaids running, one falling into my flower bed, another knocking over the DJ table. Beverly slipped while trying to stand, landed with a splash, then scrambled out like she'd seen a ghost with pinchers. I stepped outside, coffee mug in hand. "Morning, Beverly. Everything all right?" She pointed at the tub like it had betrayed her. "What did you put in there?" "Lobsters," I said casually. "They're territorial. I guess they didn't like uninvited guests." She threatened lawsuits. Said I'd hear from the board. But I was already 3 steps ahead. Security cameras had caught the whole trespass. And I had an active permit for aquatic study installations tucked away in a folder marked HOA shenanigans. 2 days later, I received a $500 fine from the HOA for unauthorized livestock and conduct unbecoming of a neighbor. I laughed so hard I choked on my toast. I spent the next 24 hours building the most ironclad defense you've ever seen. Bylaws, permit copies, witness statements from neighbors, screenshots of Beverly's texts bragging about using my tub. I even printed out HOA Regulation 7.3.4, the one that allows for temporary educational installations. When I walked into the HOA board meeting with a 22-page rebuttal and handed it to Cheryl, her expression went from smug to pale in 2 seconds flat. Beverly tried to paint me as a menace, said I had psychologically scarred her bridesmaids. I stayed calm, read my pages, and played video clips of her trespassing. The room was dead silent when I was done. Finally, old Mr. Henry, a retired judge who usually slept through meetings, cleared his throat and said, "I don't see a violation. If anything, he should be commended for educational creativity." The fine was rescinded. Beverly was formally warned for trespassing, and the HOA quietly updated their guidelines to include a new clause about unauthorized bridal parties. But of course she wasn't done. The next week, I caught Beverly trying to stage another photo shoot, this time on the edge of my property line, claiming the HOA-managed greenbelt was public aesthetic space. I called Miriam, a zoning officer I knew from college. She arrived with a badge and a clipboard and shut the whole thing down in 10 minutes flat. Beverly came back one last time, in full wedding dress. At night, holding a wrench. She was trying to access my outdoor power box. I hit the panic alarm. Lights flooded the yard. Sirens screamed. The police arrived to find her crying, mascara running, wrench in hand. She claimed she was trying to restore balance. The officers offered her 2 options: walk home barefoot with a warning or ride downtown. She walked. The final act came the next weekend. Beverly threw a healing brunch in the HOA community garden. She wore a flowing white gown and invited everyone to a symbolic wedding ceremony. I knew she was about to spin a whole new narrative, so I showed up too. When she got on stage and said, "This is about love, not conflict," I waited. Then, just as she motioned to Derek, her long-absent fiancé, who looked like he'd been blackmailed into attending, I stepped forward with a mic. I hit play on my speaker. Beverly's voice crackled through. "You weren't using it anyway. We're gonna need it all week." Then I held up the HOA ruling that cleared me and cited her. Derek looked at her, then walked out. No words. Just gone. People scattered. Someone tripped over the speaker cord. Harp music died mid-song. Beverly was left standing alone, holding a bouquet and a broken plan. She moved out the next week. No goodbyes. Just a silent departure and a "for sale" sign. Now, every time I sit in that hot tub, with the new motion sensors and a sign that reads "Marine Life Research Area, Do Not Disturb," I smile. Because sometimes, the best justice doesn't come with yelling or threats or legal battles. Sometimes it comes with 25 lobsters, a hidden camera, and one really uninvited guest who finally pushed too far. And to anyone watching who's ever had a neighbor like that, tell me in the comments. What would you have done? Would you have gone the lobster route? Or something even better? Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more HOA insanity, backyard justice, and stories that remind us all to stand our ground and keep our hot tubs booby-trapped, just in case.